far and will be posted on my website, and I'll email you a link to that a little bit later this evening. And if you have a coworker who might benefit from this, or I know there are a lot of teachers whose spouses are also teachers, so you can pass it on that way too. We love it, and share as widely as you'd like to. Next, looking through the roster, we're all Virginians. We're in this together. We're here to serve our students. So those are our agreements, and we're going to get rolling. This is a pretty packed session, so gear up. Again, if you have any questions, you can drop them into the chat, and John and Eric will be there to help you. All right, so this is a combination. In the past few weeks, we've had Google Classroom 101 and 201. This is kind of a merge of those. So some of the skills that we would have covered in 101, and it was part of the prereq that Liza passed on to all of you, was how to create a class. If you haven't yet done that, this resource here will allow you to see how it's done. Some other things that are helpful on the right-hand side, if you click on slide 3, we have Welcome to the First Day of Google Classroom. And this is a product guide that Google recently updated. So in here, it has a video introduction to what Classroom is, how to access Classroom, how to add students, and a lot of the things that we're covering today. There are places that you can go back and find this information. So if you miss something, if a part goes too quickly, or it's not clear in how I'm offering my instruction, you can always come back to this resource and be able to find information. All of this top part is video-based, but if you scroll down, we do have some more video-based lessons, tips and tricks, and then we have some PDF guides, lesson plans, and courses that you can go through that will help you to build these skills too. So you are definitely not alone, and you are supported today, tomorrow, and moving forward. All right, so continuing on, at this point, I'd like you to transition to your Google Classroom. So you can either type in at the top of the screen classroom.google.com or whatever other means you can do to get to a classroom. I'm gonna navigate there myself, and we'll wait about 20 seconds or so for everybody else to catch up. If you've never been to Google Classroom before, and I hope that most of us have, when you get there, it will give you the choice of whether or not you're a student or a teacher. Please select that you're a teacher. Otherwise, you may not have the full functions that you'll need for what we're doing today. All right, so another couple seconds as you get to Google Classroom. And once we're all there, you'll notice on my screen or on the one that you're looking at that you probably have a card or more, one or more cards in here. And these are classes that you're a member of. Now, it just so happens that all 3 of these classes, I'm the teacher, but I can also be a student of the class. So in this account, I'm the teacher in these ones, but then I'm in John Mitchum's class, and I'm a student in that one. So it does look a little bit different depending on what my role is for that particular course. So once I'm in here, if I needed to either add a class or join a class, I'm gonna click this plus sign at the top of my screen. And if you needed to create a class, you could click here. If you need to join a class because you have a class code, you could drop it in here. I'm not gonna spend a whole lot of time, but if you do need to create your class, we're gonna drop in a class name. You can do a section, so this would be like a class period, a subject, so it will autocomplete, so biology, and it will pop in. And then you can also add a room number if you'd like. So if you don't have a class, go ahead and quickly create one. Otherwise, I'd like you guys to select a pre-existing class. So for me, I'm gonna pick this practice, I'll click demo. All right, so we should all be in a class now. Again, mine's called demo, not very creative. We can see that its title's in the very top left, and that would be on any of our pages within a class. On our first page, and we know it's our first page because it says stream, it has the class name, it has the class join code, which we'll get back to in just a couple minutes, and then it has a meet link, and we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. We also have this background picture. We'll get into how to adjust our themes later on in our session. Whenever I'm in Classroom, I like to start in the top left and kind of work my way across to make sure I touch on everything. So we're going to start up in the top left-hand corner in what I call the hamburger menu, these 3 horizontal lines. When we click on this, it comes up with all of my classes. If I click this first button, it'll take me back to the home page of Google Classroom. It will also give me a calendar. This is really helpful for our students where they can click on that. And even if they have 5 or 8 different teachers, they can click calendar and it'll show all of their upcoming assignments or discussion posts that they need to do. Now, as a teacher, if I have some grading to do, that will pop in as to do, and I can go and get that view. Otherwise, I'll have my 3 active classes that are going on. I can also access settings in here, and that's where you can adjust things like when do you get an email notification. And I like to turn a lot of those notifications off, but again, it would be going to the 3-line menu, coming down to settings, and then you can toggle as you want. All right, so now we're in stream. You'll notice we have no work coming up soon, nothing's due soon. If you did have an assignment tomorrow, that would pop up here for you and your students, make it very easy and visual for them. I like to think of the stream as kind of like a social media feed. And anything that I post from either classwork or in stream itself is going to show up in here for our students where they can very quickly see what's going on. So here we have an assignment, question. These different icons automatically come up based on the type of post that it is. Here's, if I had a picture icon, it would show up here and have my just straight message or post in the stream. And all of this is done automatically for me. So that is really the basic overview of Stream. The majority of our time is going to be in the Classwork tab. So let's go ahead and toggle over to Classwork. And once we're in Classwork, you can see that I have a lot of different posts that are in here. The most prominent button that you probably see is this big Create button. And that's what we want to click on right now. When we click on Create, it comes up with 4 different types of resources that we can post. The option to reuse a post. So this is helpful if you used it in a previous class, or if you teach the same thing multiple times in the day, you can find it and repost it. And then we also have the option of a topic. I'm going to start off with topic. So let's go ahead and click Create and then topic. And think of this as your organization structure for your course. So for me, we're currently in the week of May 18 through 22. And I'm going to hit add. This is kind of like a folder. So now I have my folder structure. And I'm going to start putting things into that folder for my kiddos. So I'm hitting add, and you'll notice that I now have these 2 different folders. I have week of May 18th through 22nd with nothing in there yet. And I have the week of April 20th through 24th. And I can drag and drop these around. So if I want one to come before the other, I can do that. And it makes it very easy. So I can always have the most current week at the top. And my kiddos can easily find what they need. All right, so that's really a basic overview of topics. It's kind of a what you see is what you get, that I now have these folders that I can put things into. So next, and I can also filter here on the left. Right now it has all topics, but if I click on just May 18th through the 22nd, it comes up with, I don't have any lessons in there yet. I don't have any materials, but that's the only content in there. So this might be the better example, the 20th through the 24th. And then here are all the things that I posted for that topic. All right, so I'm back to my Create button, and I'm ready to go to assignment. And we're going to spend the majority of our Create time looking at assignment. This is really the bread and butter of Classroom for me. So we're clicking on assignment, pops up. The first thing we're prompted to do is to give it a title. I'm going to call this May 18 through 22 Choice Board. And that's our title in there. The next thing that we can do is we can optionally give some instructions. So tell our kids how to engage with the content we're going to post. I like to do this a little later in our process. So I'm going to skip down to add. So I'm coming into add. When I do that, I have 4 different types of things that I can add. From a file from Google Drive, I can post a link. I can move a file. I can upload a file from my computer, or I can add a YouTube video. We're going to take a peek at how each of these is set up. So I'm starting with Google Drive. This is going to pull up all of my Google Drive files or folders. So here we can see folders. Usually it goes by most recent, so that just makes it pretty easy that I can find, maybe I just got done working on my next choice board or assignment, and it's going to pop up for me. I'm going to select this first one and these two. So now I can post more than one at once. So I've selected my two. I'm going to hit add.
Oh, that's nice.
That is nice. Awesome. All right, so in here, I have my two different pieces. I have my HyperDoc and I have my check-in. And you'll notice on the right-hand side, I have this drop-down menu. By default, it's going to be students can view file. That means that when they get it, they can't do anything to it, but they can see it. They can read any materials that are in there. If it's slides and there's a video embedded, they can watch it. But I'm going to change these up a little bit. So I want this first one. And when I click on that drop-down, I get 3 choices. I want this first one to make a copy for each student. So this will allow all of my students, Carter to get his own copy, Miles to get his own copy, Amy gets her separate copy. And when they open up this assignment, they can begin their work. And it's automatically shared with me as well, so I can give them feedback as they're going. Now the second one is a check-in. And I want all of my students to be able to see each other's posts so that we can continue to build the community even though we're apart. So for this one, I'm going to select this middle option. Students can edit file. And what that means is all of my students, all 18 of my 3rd graders, are able to go into the same doc or in the same slides, and they can all edit in the same place. Now this might work better for us because we're in distance learning, and that not all of our students will probably log in at 2:46 on Monday. We might have some who go in 10 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday, another 1:15 on Wednesday, and they can all kind of post as they're ready to. But again, we can make these changes, and each of our files can have a different setting based on how we want them to engage with it. Now I'm heading back to add, and this time I'm going to do a link. So this can be any web resource. Maybe there's an article on Newsela that I want them to read, or something on Actively Learn and a reading passage from there. But for right now, my example, I'm just doing Google because, hey, it's Google Week, and that's what we're going to do. So add link. My kids can click on this. It will take them to that page. When I go back to add, I can do a file and just upload it. And finally, I can do a YouTube video. So this allows me to do a search, or if I already have the web address, I can just paste it in here. I don't. So if I were doing solar panels, because my 1st grader recently learned about renewable and non-renewable resources, I'm going to do my search. And in here, it will come up, show me information in here, allow me to see them. Now, a lot of these videos are pretty long, 16 minutes, 13 minutes, 5 minutes. I'm going to select this 5-minute one because it's a ed.ted or a ted.ed lesson, so that's really geared for students. When I select it, our step that we would definitely still need to do is to preview it. So I would click on its title here, and now I can watch the whole video and make sure that it truly is appropriate for my students. Now it might take a moment to load, but here I get our video from TED.
Because of the electric field.
Oh yeah, that's good. I'm gonna watch the whole thing. You'll notice I can do captions if I want to. And after I previewed it and know that it's good, it's in there. And when I hit post, my students will be able to see it. Now, going back up here, if I wanted to do instructions for my students, I like to think of this as a table of contents. So the first thing is complete your own HyperDoc. The next is fill in our weekly check-in. And I can go through and tell them exactly how I want them to engage with each of the different materials that I've bundled together into this single assignment. Now, continuing on to the right, we'll look at these settings over here. So the first thing that we can see is that I can select which class I want it to go to, and I can actually post to more than one at a time. So if I teach biology to my high school students, and I teach it 6 different times throughout the week, I can select all of the different classes and it will go to all of them at the same time. Or the other way I can engage with this, and I'm going to switch to a different account real quick, to this class here. I can post so that it goes to just individual students. So here I'm in 4, and I've gone through and selected that Brian, John, and Lindsay receive this and nobody else does. Now, right now, it's hard to see maybe in your instance of Google Classroom because you don't have students yet, or a lot of you don't have students yet, but you can differentiate this way. And I do say differentiate because back here, let's see, when I'm in this view, maybe Brian, John, and Lindsay have a different learning style, or maybe they have different interests that I can, assign and feed during this time. Or maybe I have some students who are still learning English and I want to provide a translated copy of the work, or shortened number of questions for certain students based on what their cognitive abilities, or if they have any accommodations. And I can provide these differentiated resources for my students by using that option. So I'm bouncing back here. A real quick thing to clarify though, you can't pick both multiple classes and individual or certain students. It's one or the other of these 2 choices. Continuing down, we can assign how many points it's worth, and you can do 10.5 if you want. Or I guess you can't do point, but you can choose any whole number, or you can say that it's ungraded. You can also do due dates. So if I want it to be due at the end of the week, so the 23rd, I can add a time if I want to. And this still allows our students to submit after that time, but it will mark it as late. It doesn't automatically impact their grade, but it visually will tell you, hey, this was turned in after that threshold. Then we can add a topic. It gives us the ones that we've already created, or we can create a new topic directly in here. I'm going to say it's the week of May 18th through the 22nd. And then continuing down, we can do a rubric or originality reports. We're not going to dive into those today, but there are videos about each of those, or both of those topics, in the slides that you received at the beginning. Okay, so know that that is available for you. So this looks exactly how I want it to. And I'm ready to go up to my assign option. So most prominently, I can just click assign and it goes live right now. But I can also go over to the dropdown and I can schedule it. So if I want it to go live the previous Sunday, so May 17th at 8 a.m., I can do that. So you can build things out in advance and it will post. A quick note about schedule, you can only do that if you're posting to an individual class. You can't post to multiple classes at the same time using schedule. I'm going to click assign and it's doing it. It's making a copy for each of my students of this file. It's giving them edit rights to this file. And in just a moment, this will show up in the stream and show up within the topic of May 18th through 22nd. So here we can scroll down a little bit, week of May 18th through the 22nd, and we have our first assignment. When I click on this, it gives me this information. So it allows me to see its due date. It allows me to see the instructions that I wrote in, and it tells me how many people haven't yet turned it in. So right now I have 1 person who has received it and 0 have turned it in. Now I'm going to bounce back to this class real quick because we have a lot more students in it. So when I click on one of my assignments in here, and we'll do this one, I can see that 14 of my students have received this assignment, but 0 have turned it in. And the cool thing about this is I don't have to refresh my web page. As my students start turning it in, it automatically, these numbers will shift. Okay, so that's a pretty easy way to be able to see where our different students are. And as soon as it's assigned, I can click directly on one of my students. If I want to go into, we'll pick on Carrie Ann. If I want to go into her work, I can, and be able to start giving her feedback as soon as she begins work on it. All right, so I'm going to bounce back to this view, and So within here, we can, again, hit create, and we'll just quickly talk about what these other options are. So the next one that we'll take a peek at is quiz assignment. This is going to use Google Forms. And in Google Forms, and I know that I'm doing a session on this on Wednesday, so if you are enrolled in that, you'll be able to walk through how to make a quiz in Forms. This cool option in here for grade importing means that any of the submissions will automatically use the template, or sorry, losing my mind, the answer key, and it will bring those scores in. So I'm going to come back in here real quick and find an example of that. Okay. So this is a class that I previously did, and we have, this is a quiz using Google Forms. I can see that it's been assigned. 10 of them have done it, and it's graded. I can click on Margaret and be able to see how many points she got, and it imports all other grades automatically. And these will also show up in, it will also show up in the gradebook feature of Classroom. And again, I have a video on how to do this in our slides. You can go back and watch that at your leisure. We also have the ability to add a question, and we'll get to that in just a moment. A material differs from an assignment. You're still building out a set of resources, but it's not going to be something that you expect to collect from your students. It is just informational for them. So this could be a YouTube video at the beginning of a new unit. It could be a welcome video to them, or your syllabus, lots of different options of how we can make that work. We also have the choice to reuse the post. So when we do this, and this has taken a little bit of time, I can pick which class I want to pick from. I'll pick demo, and then I can pick which assignment I want to bring in. So I'll pick this one, reuse, and it's going to come up where I can edit and then post when I'm ready. And finally, well, we already talked about that, so topic. Some other things to note within the classwork tab of Classroom. We have links to Google Meet, and we'll talk about that in a moment. When you join or create a new Google Classroom, it also creates a new calendar for you, so that your students would be able to have that on their phone or on their desktop, and be able to see any new assignments or any posts, due dates that you have. And it also creates a folder in Google Drive that organizes all of your files as either a teacher or as a student. So it does all of that automatically for you, which is pretty amazing. All right, so at this point, we're gonna, a couple of last things to see. All of this is drag and drop, so you can put it in whatever order you want. And again, these are drag and drop. You can also use the 3 dots here to move up or move down and be able to add structure to it. Ideally, you would have all of your posts in some sort of topic, so that you can really add that structure to it and be able to order it the way that you want to. All right, so at this point, we're gonna bounce over to people. And this is where we can add different people. So a couple things to note. Most of the time, I would encourage you to give your students a class code. Now that becomes a challenge when we're doing distance learning, especially if your kids have never gone through this process before. So to get a class code, it shows up a couple different places, but you can get to it from any page by going to the settings button up here. And then in here, we have our class details that you can add as much as you want. Then we get our class code. So right now, mine is UCVHQNA. I did not make this, it is random. And when I come in here, if my kids were physically with me, I could do display and it would make it really big. Since they're not with me, instead I could do copy and then I could email it. Maybe I have a weekly newsletter going to parents, I could do that. Or if you're using a tool like Remind, you could shoot it out to all of them and give them that class code. After all of your kids get in there, you can reset it or disable so that you don't have any people who accidentally join who might disrupt things. So once you have that set the way you want, you would post it, and when they get to Google Classroom, they'd click the plus sign in the top right-hand corner, join class, and be able to get into your course. Now, the other way that you may choose to do in this time, because of the confines and constrictions that we have, would be clicking on invite students. And in here, you could type in their email address or their name, and it would pull them up. So if I wanted John at adamseipel.com, his name comes up, I can select it and then move on to my next student and just go through my roster that way. When I'm done adding my people, I'm gonna hit invite, and it will show me, well, these 3 people haven't accepted yet, Carter has accepted. You'll also notice that I've set up something called Guardian summaries, and we'll get to that in just a moment too. So as my students start accepting their invitations, my class roster will switch from having a lot of these grayed out names to being bold and full like Carter's is. And you can add as many students as you need to. So, you know, I know a lot of you will probably have between like 18 and 30 something, and you can have all of them in here too. All right, so continuing across, you can also add co-teachers. So here I have, strangely, 2 people named Adam Seipel, just to model it. So it's that same process of clicking our plus sign, putting in any teacher email that I want to have access to the course. So maybe you have a special ed collaborative teacher, you can bring them in, or maybe an English language learner, ESOL co-teacher, you can bring them in too. Or maybe your entire 6th grade team, cross-curricular team, wants to make one class where all 4 of you are co-teachers and you're all able to post the same things to your students. You could do that too. All right, so we're gonna keep bouncing across and get into grades. When we get to grades, and I'm gonna switch again to this course so that we can see more kids' grades. I'm gonna click grades, and in my screen, you'll notice that I have these 6 different assignments. It gives me the class average. They didn't do too hot so far, it's a 63. And I can go through and see how people are doing. I can also give them points. I can give them their score here. So Brooke got a 97 on that, and she got a 85 here. When I'm ready to pass things back, I can either pass it back to the individual student by clicking the 3 dots and return, and it goes to them, and it will start factoring into their score. I can give a private comment of continue revising, Brooke, almost there. Return, and now Brooke has that feedback. I can give feedback at any point. And so that score shows up here. So very easy to be able to do this. So looking through here, after I've given feedback to multiple students on this assignment, I can click the 3 dots and return all. I haven't made any changes. I'll put one in here. So this is a 94 and 85. Now that I've made some multiple changes in this column, I can go up to the 3 dots, return all, and they will each get an email. Both my Johns will get an email with that update. So very, very easy structure in here. I know that there are some, most districts require that your final grades go into like PowerTeacher or some similar program. There are some teachers who do all of their scores in here, and at the end of the 9 weeks or at the end of the semester, just move a single grade with that overall grade over. You can do that. Again, if you go up to the settings, we do have a section of the settings that deal with grading. So at the very bottom, you can set up how is the grade calculated. Total points is the default. You can say no overall grade. Maybe you're trying to do more of a mastery thing and they don't need to see that overall percentage. You can set that up. You can do it by weighted category. You can choose to have overall grade present to our students or not. And then finally, we can add in our grade category. So maybe it is, I know a lot of people do homework, and this could be 10%. Tells you how many percentage points are remaining. This could be projects, and that's worth 65, and so forth. So you can easily set that type of thing up if you chose to, or not. It's really up to you. All right, so I'm done. I'm gonna discard those changes, but I can do that type of thing. Now, my next thing I wanna show you is when we get to an individual student's assignment and how we can see their work. So I'm going to go to level 1 skills. And in here, if I wanted to give Lindsay some feedback on this assignment, I'm gonna click on her assignment. And in here, it's loading, right? Tells me that it's Lindsay in the top left-hand corner. I see her work. I can do this in real time. I don't need to wait until she submits. I can give feedback at any point, which is a really big benefit compared to, let me switch to this account. Okay. So here we have Carter. I'll come in here. So this is a really big benefit compared to when we had to wait for that physical copy of work to come into our mailbox. Now we can do it in real time. So Carter is in here. I can see his work. I can come in and leave comments in here. So I've highlighted a word, and you might need to click 3 dots to be able to see the comment button. Here it is, slowly coming. Okay, so I can leave a comment to Carter. Follow the header instructions and comment. So now he sees the feedback, it highlights it for him. So when he clicks on it, it pops up and becomes very visible. He can click to resolve once he's met those needs. The other thing to note is when you first get in here, by default, you're in suggesting mode. And this is really cool. And not enough teachers really utilize this choice. So in here, when I'm in suggesting, I can make any changes. So instead of engage, it might be start here. And it doesn't actually make any changes for Carter because I'm in suggesting mode until he clicks the accept suggestion. And once he does that, it will go live with whatever I want, or he can decline it and it goes away, and he still has that ownership. He still has the autonomy to make the decisions about his work. So I really like that option. Some other things to note here on the right, I can give the grade directly to him. If I used a rubric, I can enter those in. And it also keeps track of any private comments that he makes towards me or that I make towards him, including when I did it before. Keep up your progress, resubmit when you're done. When I'm ready to move on to the next student, I can either navigate by using these drop down or by using these arrows. And I'll bounce back to Lindsay's as an example here. So I can click here and it moves to Mary's. I click here and it moves to Kim's, and they will keep loading. I don't need to go to my email and find all the different times that people shared with me. I don't need to go through a folder and keep reopening and having new tabs. All of it is contained within a single tab. I can also click my drop down here and be able to go through and find specific students. If I want to go check out Sarah's, I can find Sarah. If I'm ready for Lorianne, I can drop there too. When I'm done giving feedback to all of my students, just as we saw before, after I've made some changes, return will become blue, and I can click on that and it will give me the option to return to everybody or just return to the individual student, in this case, Cam. It's very, very simple. All right, so at this point, I'm heading back to my slides. I know that for the past half hour or so, I've kind of been bouncing through just a live demonstration. I find that that's really helpful, but know that our slides do have a structure and they do have a lot of resources that you can go back to. So I'm just gonna keep going through and making sure that I'm touching on everything. We've looked at how to do feedback. We looked at the gradebook part. Let's go ahead and take a quick peek at what the parent summary looks like. On slide 13, there is a video about that, but I want to quickly show you what these look like. So to turn on parent or guardian summaries, you go back to our gear in the top right within Classroom, and towards the middle of our, if you scroll down, it's in the general part, there's the option to turn on guardian summaries. Now, some districts have this turned off, and I'm not really sure why they have it turned off. I'm a big fan of the guardian summaries because I want my teachers to, I want the parents and families to stay abreast of what's going on in the classroom. If you click See Example, it'll show you what these summaries look like. So in here, a weekly summary for the student tells you what week, says here's missing work from last week so that the parent can, check in with Felix and say, hey, why haven't we turned in the Harlem Renaissance work? Can we go back and take a look at it? It also says anything that's forthcoming. So next week, can you show me your aquarium investigation project? Can I take a look with you? And it also says any activities, so assignments, questions, any of those posts that come in, it will be captured. Now notice, Felix is in at least 3 classes here, and all of those are brought into a single report for the parent. I think that's awesome, and it doesn't require anything from the teacher. All of that is automated based on the settings that the guardian chooses. And once Felix is attached to his parent for one class, any other class that is using the guardian summaries, they will automatically receive those too. Again, that can be toggled on or off from the class settings. Okay. Continuing on, we've already talked about quizzes real quick. I do want to just quickly show the back end of what these quizzes can look like. So let me find one of them again. And this is what it looks like for the teacher when you receive their responses. So here's my Google form. I'm switching to edit view. And in just a moment, you'll see we have questions and responses. And in here, 40-some people have taken it. Automatically, I don't have to do anything, and it gives me this information about my responses. They're not doing too great. It was kind of a lighthearted assignment, so I'm not too worried. It gives me these graphs, the statistical information. Continuing down, it will identify here are the questions that you might need to go back and reteach. So the item analysis is automated. I don't have to do anything for it. And the next time someone submits and we get to 48, and it says now 5 out of 48 have gotten it correct, I still want to go back and reteach it. But again, this is automated and shows up for me. Continuing down, it gives me charts for each question that I can see how they're doing, including highlights the correct answer based on my answer key. And all of that comes in automatically for me. Again, this is something that will be covered in our Google Forms session that's coming up on Wednesday. Okay. Themes, let me bounce back to one of our classes. So on the stream page of any of your classrooms, by default, it's going to just probably try to align it with whatever subject you select. But you can also select any theme you want by clicking in the bottom right-hand corner where it says select theme, or you can upload your own if you'd like. When you do select theme, I think they have about 50 that are in here. So you can go through, I'm going to pick math and science today. And maybe I want this one. We're in geometry class, and I can select that, and my colors will change a little bit from a green to more of a gray. And it's going to be updated on the home page of Google Classroom, and for all of our students will be updated too. You can change those as frequently as you want. I've worked with some teachers who will do a new custom photo every week that has, here are their instructions for the week, and they can easily see it. Originality report is there for you to check out. We're not going to really touch on it right now. I do want to talk about community. So this is something that right now is kind of a challenge for everybody. So how do we continue to engage with our students even though we're not physically with them? And so as we look at this, Google Meet is one way that we can do it, and it's built directly into Classroom these days. So when we're in Classroom, you'll notice on my stream, we have the class code, And right beneath that is a Meet link. If you're not seeing that in yours, this is a new feature that your Google admin will have to turn on. But look how easy this is. Once you've gotten them to turn it on, all you have to do to set it up is click your settings icon, scroll down a little bit beneath our Guardian summaries, and turn it on here. So visible to students, you can toggle on or off. And what I would do, if we're gonna meet Tuesday at 10 a.m., I'm gonna put our next Meet session is tomorrow, or is Tuesday at 10 a.m. and post. Now, it's not Tuesday at 10, so I would go in and disable my Meet link so they can't see it until right beforehand. Then as soon as we're done, I'm gonna go back and turn it off and reset it so that they can't go in without me and try to join this link again. So I can reset it after every single time that we meet, and it will come up with a new URL. If I take this, so as a teacher, or once it's Tuesday at 10, our students, all they have to do is click on that link. As the teacher, I'm going to initiate and start the Meet meeting. My camera's not going to work because it's already being used for Zoom, so just be aware of that. I'm going to join. And if I take this link and try to join with a different account that's not part of that class, let's see what happens. So check your meeting code. It's not letting me in because I'm not a member of that class. I love Google Meet because how secure it is. If you're not a member of this class, you're not getting in. And it just makes it exactly the people I want. A lot of people have been asking, why aren't we using Meet for these sessions? And because it's so secure. I had to use Zoom because it allowed people from all different districts to be able to join, whereas Meet made it just so secure for our students that I couldn't do that for you guys. So I do want to highlight that feature. So I'm going to come back in here. There is a learn more here. So if you want to learn more about Meet, you can. Discussion posts are another way that we can leverage our community even when we're apart. So you can do that by going back to classwork. And that's the question option. So I'm going to go to create question. And when I do that, I have two different types of questions I can do, short answer or multiple choice. So if I wanted to do, when should our next meeting be? I'm going to make this multiple choice, and it can be Tuesday or Wednesday. And when this posts, my students on the stream will just see those two choices, and very quickly I can get that data from it. So I'm back in the stream. When should our next meeting be? The students would make their selection and we'd be able to see in real time. We can also do the short answer response and allow people to reply to each other. So that's certainly an option too. One of the final things I want to talk about is with Classroom. They do have some great apps for both Android or iOS. So with the mobile apps, you can draw feedback within there. You can also record videos and be able to post those using the camera that's on your phone. If you have Chromebooks, you can download the Android app for the Chromebook and gain some of that functionality too. So really cool how you can kind of use both the mobile version and the web-based version to reach your kiddos. One of the final things to talk about is end of year. We're all pretty close to the end of the year right now. So let me show you how easy it is to transition and get ready for the 2021 school year. All right, so in here, I have my class, Google Level 1. In the top right-hand corner, you can see that we have these 3 dots. It's a little hard to see on this particular card, but know that it's there. When I'm ready to make a copy for the next year, I'm going to click those dots. select copy. It's going to ask me to give it a name. So this will be next year, section 21. I can fill in these other pieces too if I want. Now I'm ready to hit copy. And it's going to take every single topic that I have, every single assignment, every question, all of those different pieces that I've already spent time building out, and it's going to make a copy for me. Now, by the end of the year, you may have many, many, many of these, but it's still going to come in here. It's taking a little bit longer to create the class. Thankfully, I did the same thing last week, so I can click on this same thing. And once we get there, when you go to classwork, we have all of our topics that we previously made. All of our assignments are all gray, and that means they're in draft until I'm ready to push them. So when I'm ready to do the assignment level 1 slides, all I have to do is click on it, edit, and when I'm ready for it to go live, I'm going to click post, and it's going to switch from being in draft to now it's posted. And my kids can begin to see it. And as I scroll down, you'll see all of these different things. It's set up for them, and it makes it so easy for me. Now that my class is, I have the copy that I was hoping for, I can come in here. We'll get rid of fall 20 this time. I click my 3 dots again. I'm ready to archive it. And it doesn't get deleted. None of the files that were within it that are in my Google Drive get deleted. It just hides it. And if I ever need to find it again, I can click my 3-line menu, my hamburger menu, come down to archive classes, and you'll see that I have a lot of them in here. And I can always bring them back, again, clicking our 3 dots, and this time restore, and it comes back. We have the video on how to do that, so you can come back to it when you're ready. So the final thing to know, and we already took a very quick peek at this, is that the Google Teacher Center has a lot of resources available for you. And when you go to this resource, this is all of the different training lessons that Google and its educational partners have put together for you. So everything from how do we collect assignments effortlessly? You can click on it, and it comes up with lessons, and it keeps track of your account and what you've spent time in. And you can follow it. It has video based, it has different reflection questions built in to really make sure that you understand the why we would choose to use these strategies, why we would use these different tools. So in here, you can hear from these different teachers about how they use it, be able to read the transcript, and it gives you different tips and tricks along the way too. All right, so we are moving into our wrap-up phase. I want to quickly thank you for joining. If you have any questions, you can shoot them to me at adamseipel@gmail.com or at adamseipel on Twitter. I've noticed a few of you have followed me during the session, so that's awesome. You can always engage with me there. I want to thank John and Eric for helping out and moderating throughout this entire series. You guys have made it where I haven't had to worry about anything. Thank you for making this seamless for me. I also want to thank Vassal for making this a free series for all of our Virginian educators. It's been amazing for me to be able to work with probably 3,000 different teachers during this time. So thank you for making that free. Finally, if you could, please leave me some feedback. And you can do that by going to bit.ly/VASCLBACK. There's a short Google form there that you can fill out. If you need to get a renewal certificate, you can also do that from there. And it will come to you pretty quickly. It might be a couple of days at this point, but please just be patient and you will definitely get your copy. It is just moving a little bit slower than what we've experienced before. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I have a couple minutes left. I do have a meeting that starts at 3:30, so I do have a couple minutes. If you have questions, feel free to shoot them my way. You can unmute and be able to ask. And John and Eric will stick around once I have to take off to be able to continue to field your questions. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Once you filled out the feedback form, you can take off or ask those questions that you have.
Thank you, Adam.
You're welcome.